The 1984-style propaganda machine is in full swing, and political parasites and lamestream media lapdogs want you to take the shot.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now.
Good morning to all of you. I want to be completely clear about something, and that's this. Every major medical body and federal office agrees vaccines are safe and effective, full stop.
We have a big meeting with the biggest companies, really the most powerful companies, hopefully the smartest companies anywhere in the world when it comes to drugs and vaccines, because we're talking about a vaccine, maybe a cure, if it's possible, so we'll see about that, but we're talking about a vaccine. And they're moving along very quickly. All of the pharmaceutical companies are moving along very quickly.
Schiff sent an open letter calling on the company to stop surfacing and recommending content that discourages parents from vaccinating their children. What makes you comfortable having these tech companies decide what should rise and what should be suppressed?
I can't say that I am all that comfortable with that idea, but I think here, where you're talking about an immediate threat to public health, where you're talking about a very strong scientific consensus, I think that cuts in favor of the exercise of social responsibility.
Vaccines, we want to make sure that the vaccines are affordable, and we think it's important to make that point.
They have to get their shots.
The susceptibility has to do with how much metal you have in your body, as well as the quality of the water in your cells. So if you start injecting aluminum in people, they become receptors for absorbing increased electromagnetic fields, and that is a perfect storm for the kind of deterioration of the species, which is what we're now experiencing.
Over the last several weeks, our nation has been faced with a grave and accelerating challenge, one that tests our compassion, ingenuity, and resolve, the coronavirus crisis.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
We've been working very hard on this. We've made tremendous progress. When you compare what we've done to other areas of the world, it's pretty incredible.
They have to get their shots.
Because of all the crazy crap going on in our current world, I, like probably a lot of you, have been doing a lot of research on viruses. How do they affect us? How do we get them? What's our body's response to them? How do vaccines play into the factor? And I happened upon this doctor named Dr. Thomas Cowan, who's from the Michigan State University College of Human Medicine. The guy's been practicing for 20 years and he's a general practitioner. So I distilled a whole video in this video where he talks about the body's natural response to viruses and what you can expect the body to do and what you shouldn't do when the body's working on trying to get rid of this virus. So I thought you would think it was interesting. This is part one. There's a part two because I didn't want to make the video too long. I wanted it to be kind of digestible for the masses, but I think this is information worth disseminating. Now, let me just say this. I am not a medical doctor. I don't have any medical training, and this is not medical advice. This is just one doctor's perspective, and I wanted to find out what you guys thought about it. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Here's Dr. Cowan.
A lot of patients over the years have come to me and said they want help with their immune system. And the first thing I usually say to them is, you don't have an immune system. You have at least two immune systems. And in order to understand how this whole thing called life and health works, and especially in relation to vaccines and children's illness, we really have to know how these two immune systems actually work together. Viruses are basically excretions of the cell, and that what the infectious, contagious part is actually fear, not the actual agent. So if we're essentially a child and we're naive, meaning we've never experienced something like chickenpox before, and then we get exposed to the chickenpox virus, the virus gets into our cells by the hundreds, thousands, maybe millions, and interferes with the ability of that cell to function properly. And that becomes an intolerable situation for the life of the organism and for the life of the cell. And so there is a specific recourse that the body has to that situation of cell with stuff in it. And that recourse is to call forth the cell-mediated immune system, so-called because it's based in the white blood cells. And there's all sorts of chemicals which are recruited to bring the white blood cells to that area. And the white blood cells' job, like some sort of Pac-Man thing, is to digest and then eliminate those infected cells. That's such an important point to clarify, that it's not the virus that makes you sick. It's the activity of the cell-mediated reaction clearing the infected by the thousands or millions of cells out of the body. How do I know that? Because you can infect somebody with a virus that causes illness, like chickenpox or measles or anything, and you can give a medicine to suppress the activity of the cell-mediated immune system so it doesn't function, and the person will never show signs of being sick. Being sick, if there's anything you remember from this talk, being sick is a reflection of your own activity to clear out cells that are become dysfunctional out of your body. And I would say not only is it the way that that happens, it's actually the only way that that happens. Now, if you take somebody and infect them with a virus or a chickenpox or something and totally suppress their cell-mediated immune system, you can actually kill them with the virus, for instance. But they will never be, quote, sick. And when I say sick, I mean fever, rash, mucus, cough, all the things that we commonly associate with being sick. Being sick is your own activity. It's a therapeutic cleansing response. It can happen to viruses, it can happen to Roundup, it can happen to anything that interferes with the healthy life of the cell. That's important point number one. When you go back in history and look at the history of medicine, you find over and over again everything from Hippocrates saying, "Give me a medicine to produce a fever and I can cure any disease." The job of a doctor is to distinguish between the therapy and the disease, and we do it extremely poorly. And what I mean by that, a very simple example, if you get a splinter in your finger and you don't take it out, you make pus, right? Is the pus the therapy or the disease? The therapy. How many people think the pus is the disease? Nobody, because nobody here got their flu shot last year. The splinter is the disease. The pus is the therapy for the disease. And here's how you get chronic disease. You go to the doctor, he thinks, oh, I learned in medical school, pus means infection, Acinetobacter, blah, 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 strep, this. You have an infection, you need antibiotics, you get rid of the pus goes away, the splinter stays. What happens next? It happens again and again. And now you have chronic splinteritis disease, which means a tumor formation around the splinter that your body then says, the heck with it, we'll just leave it there for the rest of your life. Now, you could say, that's such a silly example, which is why I use it. Nobody would be stupid enough to make that mistake, but I can tell you approximately 50,000 times a day or a week or something in the United States, somebody puts splinters in their lungs, right? That's called smoking. It doesn't have to be a physical splinter. It could be cigarette smoke. It could be on and on and on and on. So what happens next? You get pus. Why do you have pus? To get the debris out of your lungs. Very simple. You go to the doctor, he says you have bronchitis, you need antibiotics, you have this bacteria living in your tissues. The bacteria, as Zach said, are scavengers. You wouldn't have a compost pile that you put things that don't belong in a compost pile, and then you will breed different bacteria, and then you go and say, yeah, I see the compost pile has an infection, I'm going to give it an antibiotic, and I will heal the compost pile. That's nonsense. It happens every single day in every doctor's office. Debris in the human being, they react with their cell-mediated reaction, fever, pus, don't feel good, cough, mucus. They stop that from happening, and then they do that twice a year for 20 years, and then what happens? The person gets cancer. Why do they get cancer? Well, two reasons. One, you put debris in your lungs that's toxic. But that isn't enough. You have to put debris in your lungs, and then somebody has to stop it from getting out. That's the job of the doctor. That is pediatrics in modern America. That's what we do. The people put debris in their lungs, in their tissues. They respond appropriately by getting it out, by trying to get it out. Because we don't understand that that's what's happening, we suppress it. We claim it's an infection. We claim it's chronic bronchitis. We claim it's a genetic disease. We claim you have a mutation that doesn't allow you to get debris out of your lungs. None of it is real. That's how the body works, and I would contend it's the only way the body works.